Howdy everyone, Roshi is here. Today we're taking a look at the Empire of Glass Theme Deck bundle. I'm going to be taking a look at each deck, going over them, talking about where you can take them from there, if they're good for a beginner player, and whether or not I think this bundle is good value. So we'll hop right into it. 1,100 gems for this. We get 4 promo Desert Alchemists, which is pretty sick. And then the 5 theme decks of Empire of Glass. One of the cool things to keep in mind, if you already bought the theme decks through other ways, you just get an extra copy of it, so you'll get another set of all of the cards inside. Usually this is pretty good dust value, so I typically get these, get all of the theme decks pretty much regardless, just to have extra Shiftstone lying around. But if you're more looking for targeted stuff, let's just take a dive into these and check it out. So pull up the theme decks here, and it is these first 5. So let's just start with Overwhelming Swarm. Looks like this is the replication cell one. Pretty sick that they're actually giving us a legendary here. So we get this replication cell, and honestly, I feel like this is one of the most fun cards to, like, one of the more fun cards from Empire of Glass. So if you're just looking to, like, get up to some shenanigans on the ladder, there's plenty of ways to abuse this. Look for cards with really strong draw effects, or summon effects, or entomb effects, and if you can live long enough to start activating this every turn, you'll really start pulling ahead. For the rares, we've got Down Dark Scrounger. This one makes your spell damage go up, which can be pretty useful. You can also draw a spell from your void, which is nice. Tesseract's Technique. This is the Grenadine Tribe's technique spell. If you're playing a Grenadine list that's in these colors, you'll probably be playing 4 of this. And Pinnacle of the Reach. I'm not sure how this card really fits in with the rest of the deck. It will give you some extra draw, but it's also going to give your opponent some extra draw. I imagine most of the time you're going to be better off playing a card like Wisdom of Elders, but it is a free rare, so you can just dust it and go on from there. If you're a new player, like, who doesn't have a lot, but you want to play this like Grenadine list, I would probably I would buy this, and then I would disenchant this Pinnacle of the Reach and buy more of the commons and uncommons you need. For the list, pretty straightforward. Lots of 1-drops here. Not all of them are the most optimal. There's a lot we can do here. There's like cards like Grenadine Drone, and the 3-cost one that makes 3 Grenadines and stuff like that that are more efficient. But this is basically ready to go, and I think it's targeted towards Expedition. So this would be Expedition legal, and some of the better cards I was mentioning are Throne only. So just something to keep in mind as we're going through. I don't want to spend too much time, but it looks like they give us some solid removal. We have Conflagrate, Cyber Combustion, which is the de facto Grenadine Hailstorm. Pretty sick. Altogether, just kind of what I would expect from them for this. Cyberhound's a pretty cool card. And seems like a pretty solid way to get started. I could see this working on the ladder. Just as is, you wouldn't really need to do anything. It's nice that they give you the Seed of Furies, because getting the power can be expensive. Places I would take this from here, I would start to fill out some of these. We have a lot of like 1-ofs and 2-ofs. Go through and like make sure you're running like 4 Cyber Combustions. You'll probably want 4 Cyber Hounds. Stuff like that. They're uncommon, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal to fill out. And if you actually, one thing you can do, I mentioned it before, but you can buy the stuff separately, the theme decks, and then you can buy this bundle. So if you were to buy the theme deck and you were buy the bundle as well, you would actually have play sets of just about everything. And that's a pretty respectable place to start. And then you'd have some extra dust lying around just from the overlap, and you could use that to craft more cards. But that's all for this one. Seems pretty solid. I could see it working out. Next up, we've got Dick Rose Artillery. This is the de facto Argenport deck. Looks like we've got a Valkyrie base. with a little bit of Minotaur action here. When you play a relic weapon, Cataxius and each other weapon in your deck get its battle skills and +1/+1. Valkyrie Warp, gain 4. So, pretty solid for a 2-drop, honestly. And has a lot of good Valkyrie synergy. It gives you a Dicro Vindicated and a decent weapon and Dicro's technique. I could definitely see this deck working on the ladder. And if you have 2 of them, this is, like I said, going to be perfectly fleshed out. Just going through some highlights for the list, giving you a Suffocate, very solid early game removal. I would probably look to have more of this. Let's see, Battlefield Scavenger is a pretty fun Valkyrie synergy card. When one of your Valkyrie dies, play a soldier. Not as great, but it's something. When you play an attachment, play a snipe. Kind of medium. Rebuke is okay. Stalwart Silverwing. Vanquish is excellent removal. You'll probably be going up to 4 of this, especially in Expedition where there's less options. Deathwing, here's another one you'd probably be going up to 4 of. Silver Slicer, Valkyrie Warp, Quick Draw, kind of neat. Relic Weapon. If it does have Quick Draw, you can start like machine gunning through the opponent's board. If you're able to get any buffs on this too, it would be pretty scary coming down. Silverblade Reaper, as opposed to playing this, I mean, eventually you're probably going to want Roland, right? So Roland will just make these, and he only costs 1 more. So that'd be something where we'd want to upgrade to. Styre's Beckoning. This is a card that's actually just on the site. So there's a site, it's 4 green, it's 2 Justice and 2 colorless basically. And you can play the site, and this is actually one of the spells on it, and it's only 1 cost more. So that to me screams as a very easy upgrade from here. It's a legendary, so you know, if you can only craft 1 and put it in the market, do that. Moving along, we've got Tandem Watchwing, nothing too crazy here, typical common. Sultan Arbalast, it's a very respectable relic weapon. It's not the greatest thing you can be doing, but it will kill an annoying threat and then stick around to ping off some other things if it doesn't die. Pretty standard common, kind of overcosted for what it's doing. Valkyrie Denouncer, once again, there's another card that actually creates this. It's called Silverblade Intrusion. Might be something to consider if you're into just having 5 power 3/3s. Instead, you can spend 1 mana and get it. Dicro Vindicated, they only give us 1. Honestly, not a bad number. One of the things you could do with this is, with these theme decks, they don't seem to give you a market. So what you could potentially do is just add a market to the deck and put some of these rares in the market, and then you'll have more access to this. And I could see both ways where, you know, maybe you'd want to run 2 main or run 1 in the market in case, you know, you doubled up on the theme deck. And then Hookblade Infuser is kind of mediocre, but it could be a nice budget bomb if that's what you need. And then Emerald Spear is super expensive. It's not going to be very often you get here. So altogether, if I had to give this one a rating, I mean, I could see it doing some things on the ladder, but it's not going to take much for your opponent to outpace you. However, if you are able to like get some of your high roll cards, you're going to run away with the game. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. For the Grenadine one, I would probably rate that as an 8 out of 10. I know I didn't rate that, I forgot to. Moving along, going into the Soldiers one. So it's interesting that they have this separate soldier deck, but there was also another soldier deck, and I reviewed that in an earlier video. If you combine these, you're gonna basically be ready to roll. Argo Ironthorn is absolutely crazy. Tactical superiority is very, very strong. With the right build around, you can really wreck people's days. Argo's technique is pretty sick, gives you a nice spell pierce, lifesteal, and creating random soldiers. So against the red decks, you're going to have a way to recoup life. Against annoying decks that are like trying to wipe the board and stuff, or kill your guys or whatever, we have, I said spell pierce, I'm sorry, that's a Magic the Gathering card. It's 1 power, your opponent has to play 2 or it counters their spell. Kind of the same thing we have going on here. Except this has more utility. It's never dead. Battle Bear, I usually consider this card to be too slow, but if you're climbing up the ladder, you're probably going to have, like, the lower you, if you're playing in, like, silver or bronze or maybe even gold, and potentially even further, you're going to have plenty of time to slam Battle Bear before you're dead, most likely. So, by all means, run Battle Bear or put him in your market or something. As for the rest of the deck, it is very similar to the Genitor Dovid list. Looks like they have a few separate options. I really like that they give us Permafrost here. If you're playing this Soldiers deck, you're probably going to want 4 Permafrost. Crown Patroller, very solid. You can plunder with this. You can also run the Flyer. It's a 1 power 2/3, and that's like a common or an uncommon or something. And it's a bird soldier as well. So between those two, you'll have a ton of plunder effects, some really nice cheap guys to get in and start attacking, and also cheap minions that we can exhaust for tactical superiority and get extra stuns off with Argo Ironthorn. So pretty good synergy there. Frostbite Elemental has some stun synergy. I'm not sure we bother with this, but you do you. Maveloft Elite has a chance of getting pretty beefy until you can get some better cards like Maveloft Huntress. I would say continue to run this. Let's see what else. Fencing Master's fantastic. I would look to get a playset of these. Call on allies, move a random unit in your deck to the top, amplify, exhaust a soldier to play a +3/+3 weapon, and move an additional unit in your deck to the top. It's cool that you can use this to put a bunch of weapons on your guys. I'm gonna withhold judgment on this card. I haven't played it with it yet. I imagine, like, let's say we have like 4 soldiers on the board. I'm assuming this means if I play this, I can put 4 creatures on top of my deck and give 4 of my minions +3/+3. I'll have to test it out. But if that's the case, this card is insane. If it's only like 1 or 2, then maybe not. Like I said, I have to test it out. Moving along, Stormhawk Battalion. In this version of the deck, it's fine, but once I got my playset of tactical superiorities, I probably wouldn't be bothering with this guy anymore. Just a 3 power 2/2 isn't the greatest rate. Arc Official, kind of in the same boat until you can get like playsets of some better Minotaurs, or sorry, better soldiers. This is okay to run. Daring Swordmaster. We have enough Amplify going on that we can get some value out of this. It is kind of fragile. It could be very nice if you're able to Fate and draw a card, but playing 4 power for a 1/1, kind of sketchy. And you have to play a ton of really cheap Amplify to make use of this. But if it ever sticks and you get the full value out of it, you're going to end the game real fast. Gate Crash Trooper. Each player draws a card. This would be one of the cards I'd be looking to cut pretty fast. If you're looking to draw cards, just play something like Wisdom of Elders or more tactical superiorities, honestly. So we don't really want to draw our opponent's cards. And then Tactical Superiority, Argo. I talked about these guys. They're super strong. Maveloft Quartermaster. It's kind of okay. 5 power for a 3/3 is kind of fragile. But if it sticks and you start drawing cards off of it, that can be nice. But I would still be looking to cut this card. We want more aggressive things for 5 power. Battle Bear. I mentioned he's kind of expensive and doesn't really do anything immediately when he enters. So if you play him and they kill it, you're kind of behind. But if you play him and he lives, you're probably going to win the game with it, which is sick. And Frostclaw Rider, this would be a card I'd look to get a playset of ASAP. And I actually have another video where I do some Dovid gameplay with some soldier synergy. That would be a good place to look. I'll try and include the link to that video down in the description, or at least to the deck list. And it can be a good idea of where to go to from here once you're if you've decided to craft this. So other than that, pretty solid list. I'd probably give that one a 9 out of 10. Just it seems ready to roll out of the box, and with only a few minor additions like commons and uncommons, you've got a competitive deck on your hands. Now for this one, Opum's Builders, we've got Opum, Summon, give one of your other Sentinels +5/+5 while you have Opum. So if Opum dies or gets messed with or whatever, you're only going to have, you're going to lose that +5/+5. Entomb, deal damage to an enemy unit equal to the number of Sentinels in your void. Honestly, when I was trying to play with Opum, I would play him and he would like die immediately, and like around when I was playing him, I'd only have one, if that, Sentinels in the void. But I need to play with him more to really decide. It seems like if you were kind of building on a budget and this was like the one theme deck you bought, you know, and you're playing around at like bronze or silver, I could easily see this card just taking over games and just housing people, especially down there. And even later on, I mean, this card has so many stats on it. If you just take a look at it, and like if you're able to make full value of it, it's 5 power for 10 power and toughness. 5 mana, 5 power for 10 power and toughness on the board. You get an Entomb effect on top of that, so not something to turn your nose up at. Opum's Technique recently got a buff, so that makes this deck even better, being able to hit factionless and multi-faction units. Other than that, +2 and +2 in Overwhelm. A lot of these Sentinels are massive, and being able to use this to just trample over blockers is fantastic. And creating and drawing a random Sentinel to just make this card not dead is a pretty nice round out. Pyrotech Explosion, 3 power, 4 damage. In Expedition, this is like the new Jack basically, but if you amplify it, so you know, let's say we're spending 8 power on it, that's going to be 8 damage, and this won't ever be stopped by Aegis, so it gets around Bubble Shield and annoying stuff like that. When you play a Relic, your Sentinels get +1/+1, silence each enemy unit with 1 health. I haven't messed around with this card too much. There's a lot of options in this slot, but just for getting started on a Sentinel list, this is a perfectly respectable card. Has the potential to grow and get out of hand, and even has an enter the battlefield effect. Being a 2/4, it can block a lot of things, so pretty happy with that card overall. Moving along, Auto Tread, Amaran Shoveler. These both seem to be our 1-drops. I definitely think there's some better 1-drops out there over Amaran Shoveler, both as Sentinels and as Explorers, so I would look to be adding those. Auto Tread, I would get 4 of these as soon as I could. This is one of the reasons to play Sentinels. It is one of the best cards. A lot of 2/1s flying around, a lot of 3/1s, etc. Play this card, blow them out with it, and have a good time. Okessa's Audience, this is a little slow. It's fine it's fine as a common, but really not getting too much value out of this. One thing I can say about this, you could play a turn 1 Okessa's Audience and a turn 2 Core Tap Maximizer, and that would be one of the only ways to really pop off with that. Also, the Plunder can be helpful, so kind of decide if that's worth it to you. But that would be a very strong start of turn 1 Relic, turn 2 Core Tap, and you untap and you're going to have 5 power on turn 3. So, Amber Lock, looks like this is just a cheap Relic they included in here just to turn on some of our Relic synergy. It's nothing too crazy, and I would probably look to replace this eventually, but it can get the job done. Power Cell, 2 power, 2/1 Decay. Gives you a power burst, so another nice way to ramp. Combo's kind of cool. With other Sentinels getting bigger and having decay, it can trade with a lot, and even if it doesn't trade, just shrinking things is helpful. Restorative Process, sweet way to kind of reload our hand. If we've happened to have discarded any relics or sacrificed them somehow, we can use this, get a Sentinel back, get a relic back. One cool thing is when you're bringing stuff like Tread back, Auto Ted as I like to call him, he'll keep all his buffs. So you can buff the crap out of this guy, and like then he'll die, and then you get him back, and then you have like fodder in your hand to like discard again. That can work out quite well for you. Moving along, roaming circle. Each of your units gets +1. Actually, a pretty solid common compared to some of the other commons we've been dealing with. This one can actually get the job done. Stakeout. I'm actually playing this in one of my regular Praxis decks. I definitely have it in the market, but I could see this being a main deck card. There's not a ton of solid relics in Expedition right now, so you can definitely get some work done with this card. Ancient Defenses, a very efficient relic, basically costing 1 more than what we'd expect for dealing 3 damage, but we get this permanent effect of all of our Sentinels get +2. I'm a huge fan of this card. If you're playing Sentinels, you'll probably be looking to craft your 3rd and 4th copies of this. Barricade Basher, another fantastic reason to be playing Sentinels. I would definitely go up to 4 of this ASAP, and yeah, it's just so much stats for 3 power. It can only block for 1 turn, but this guy will close out games so fast, all on his own. You hit someone 5 times with this, and they're dead. Beacon of War kind of plays along with what we're doing, and you can definitely use this to like clear blockers. A little slow for my taste, but if you're able to start stacking buffs, and then maybe give yourself a good overwhelm, that can be a solid way to close out the game. Laser Blast is one of the best removal spells in the game right now, let alone just for us. And we're happy to play 3. We will definitely add... It's a common, just pick up the 4th one if you're playing Sentinels. You're going to want this card. Malaga Munitions makes a weapon, pay 3, make another weapon. This is very slow. I'd look to replace this pretty quickly. Here's the rares. We talked about these. Monolith Guardian. This is a 4 power 7/7 most of the time for us. I would craft my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th one. One thing to keep in mind, we've got a ton of like big guys in this deck. So you might want to be playing something like Might Weaver, and that can really, really help you punch over whatever your opponent's doing, especially if you're giving cards Overwhelm with like other effects. There's plenty of other cards that give Overwhelm other than Open's Technique that are at common and uncommon, but something to keep in mind is Might Weaver. Pompous Historian has some pretty solid synergy. If you're trying to play a more mid-rangey version of this deck, this guy's good. But for what we're doing here, it almost feels like an aggressive deck. So I would probably cut this and add just more aggression. Red Plate Crasher is absolutely epic. Combos so well with Ancient Defenses, and I would highly recommend playing this with Might Weaver. You'll just randomly kill people. Ancient Excavator, once again, if you're playing a more mid-rangey version, this card can give you some value. But the relics we have in Expedition aren't too crazy, so I wouldn't expect too much out of this card, but those stats are pretty good. For a 5-drop, having a 4/6, it's going to block a lot and stonewall a lot of people. Moving along, Stoneshell Walker. If you're somehow able to get this to die on your turn, that can be pretty solid, and already having Overwhelm is cool. And then Power Breach Sentinel, for a common, this is okay. Once again, being a 4/6, a 5/6 in that range, this guy's just going to be bigger than most of the other stuff on the board, and is actually a respectable threat. One thing to keep in mind, though, is it seems like aside from Amplify effects, this deck doesn't really need that much power once you get to this point. So one cool thing about it is playing the top power of your deck, so if you can get him in play, it'll give you some pseudo card advantage because you won't be drawing that power anymore. But it's not really going to be ramping us into anything unless you're willing to shell out some big bucks for some of the bigger Sentinels. And then Silver Titan, 7 power, 6/6 endurance, very respectable. But if you can ever get the free Fate off of him, that's awesome. This would definitely be a decent deck to do it. I mean, you're going to draw Silver Titan in your opening hand a good portion of the time. But I like this card. You can also combo it with Restorative Process so that you can like tactically draw an extra card whenever you have a Sentinel in play. And that could be a solid way of going about it. I think this list is great. I'm pretty sure this is my first 10 out of 10 I'm going to be giving for a theme deck. I think, let's take a look at this last one, but I think it might have been the best of the bunch. The Great Kudzu, you gain 3 life, Fate, Ultimate, pay 10 to give the top 3 units of your deck +1 in Destiny. Kudzu's Technique, silence each enemy with flying, give one of your mandrakes +2/+2 and deadly this turn, and create and draw a random mandrake. Seems alright. If you're playing against Valkyries, this can be a good way to blow them out during combat. Giving a random mandrake +2 and deadly can also be helpful. And drawing a random mandrake is fine. Vine Tangler, one of the best mandrakes, recently saw a nerf, definitely still viable. One thing to keep in mind, if you're playing this deck, you're probably going to want to craft 4 Marius Mandrake. It's just kind of essential for the deck. I might dock them some points for just not having it in the list, or, you know, I don't know. Just craft them. It's not too bad. They are a rare, so I guess with this one we have to dock it some budget points, because before you even play it, you're basically obligated to craft 4 cards. You could play it without it, but I wouldn't. Moving along, Shadow Creeper, turning off Aegis and killing things. Like, what more could we want? Darkwater Vines, regen is very solid. Very easy to activate this ultimate. If you want to have an easier time activating the ultimate, just put a bunch of vows in your deck, and that'll be pretty quick and dirty way of triggering this. There's also plenty of other discard effects. These kind of decks will typically play 4 Exploit. You'll have to craft it, but it probably is worth it. Forget. This card's easy to forget about, but for getting started, it's fine. I would look to replace this with actual removal spells. This kind of deck can run Send an Agent, so I would play 4 Send an Agent before I played 1 Forget. That's up to you, though. Suffocate, excellent removal spell. I would probably be playing 4 of these before I played even 1 Forget. And yeah, other than that, they give us some Seek powers, some Beseech the Thrones. This can help fix our power. Blood Quill, this card is very mediocre in my opinion. I would cut this very fast. Fatal Misstep, I've tried this card. It was so hard to pull it off. Being a common though, I don't mind running this, especially if you're playing on a budget. Feel free to run this, but there's better things. There's better removal out there, but if you're at the point where you need something like this, just run it. It's not a big deal. Nectar of Unlife, 5 power before you're able to get anything back from the Void is a very expensive rate. We have a card called Soul Stirrings at Uncommon. Speaking of which, you're going to want to have 4 of these. And it's just a million times better than this. Definitely play 4 Soul Stirrings before you play even 1 Nectar of Unlife. Now, like, it can be cool to use it as a removal spell early on, but 2 power for decay 2 damage is not the best rate. And even 5 power to get 1 guy back from your Void is just too much. So I'd be cutting this real quick. Shadow Walk Cloak, not as important in our deck. We're kind of looking to just flood the board and go over the top. We don't have too many minions that need to have unblockable. So here's another card I would swap out for more removal or more mandrakes. Shambling Sapsucker. This card's solid. Giving all of your mandrakes decay and +1, it can kind of gum up the board. For this deck, I definitely can see running this. It doesn't have any ultimate synergy, so that kind of docks a point or 2 on it. But being able to buff your whole board is solid. So I would definitely run this until I was able to craft some of the better options. Expand the Reach, kind of a little expensive for what we're trying to do here. But if you're looking to cast stuff like the Great Kudzu, you'll probably want this. I'm not sure that this card's really necessary. One thing I would do is, and this would require you to, craft more cards, but there's a card from one of the campaigns called Uxu. So if you were playing Primal as well as Time and Shadow, I really like cards like this for making sure we can get to 7 power and cast stuff like Uxu. But in just the Xenon version, I probably wouldn't bother. Invasive Creeper, Fate, draw a card. Ultimate, give all your mandrakes +1 and lifesteal. This is going to wreck aggro. It did see a nerf recently, but it's not too significant. It just lost 1 point of toughness. It's still probably going to die to the same things it would have died to otherwise. It's just a little worse in combat. But yeah, this card's solid. It's great whenever you're able to just draw a card off of it without just for free. And then when you play an ultimate ability, your mandrakes get +1 lifesteal. Pretty huge. Overdrone Harvester? Yeah, we're going to cut this real quick. Sunset Priest, this can be a nice way to trigger Darkwater Vines. I'm not really sure I'd keep this in, but it can combo nicely with Shoal Dredger, so I'll kind of leave that up to you if you want to include this. Venomous Nightshade, this card is also another card that saw a nerf. You might be seeing a trend here. This deck was so strong, it got nerfed like 5 times. But when you gain life, make a seed. When you play an ultimate ability, all of your mandrakes get +1 and deadly. This is insane. This turns your board into a nightmare for your opponent to deal with. And then even if they're playing flyers, you can drop them all out of the sky and blow them out with Nightshade. Goliath Flytrap, a very slow silence. It makes up for it though with having Plunder on a summon effect, and a 3/5 is very respectable, so we'll keep that. Mandrake Shambler, we're going to cut this real quick. I suppose it would be interesting if you had like a big unit to buff it with and you gave it unblockable, but definitely look to cut this. Mandrake Simulacrum, I don't know, whatever. Simulac. Well, never catch me simulacking. But cut this. Yeah, we're not going to play this card. Pollen Sprayer, when you play an ultimate ability, all of your units get +1. In a more budget version of the deck, this is fine, but it's really expensive for what it's doing. Being only a 1/5/2 isn't as aggressive, but if you start popping off those ultimates, it can get out of hand. Especially if you have a card like Vine Tangler in play, making a bunch of 3/3s. This card is definitely superior, but kind of up to you if you want to craft this or not. I know it's a rare. Shoal Stirring's already talked about it. It's great. Shoal Dredger, this is a very big threat, and it can come out pretty early if you're able to enable it. I'm not sure it's worth forcing it. You can just include this in the deck, and you'll get to the point where you can cast it eventually anyway, as I eat my hair. But yeah, altogether, this card definitely has some duds in it, this deck, but some of the upside of having it, if you buy 2 of these, you basically have a deck ready to go. Buy your 4 mandrakes, and you'll be in the hole a little bit, but you'll be able to climb probably all the way to master with this. I'd give this a 9 out of 10. I would give it the full 10 if it didn't just have, like, there's clearly some better options they could have included in here, and they just didn't, so we'll give it a 9. And that is all for these. If you were to buy them all separately, it'd be 3,000 gold each, or you actually save, if you look at them, 1,000 gold is a booster pack, and 100 gems is a booster pack, so you're actually saving money by spending gems on these. Now, obviously, if you're free to play, you just spend gold on it, but you're not going to be able to buy this bundle at all if you're free to play, because you can't buy it with gold. As far as how the theme decks go, I think this is a very solid bundle. I'm probably going to buy it just to get these really sick altered art cloud, Aladdin flying cloud man, Goku, snakes on a plane, desert alchemist, but that's kind of my MO. I'll be going through more of these bundles in the future. I'm not sure if I'll go through all the old ones, because you probably know if you wanted these by now, but I'll try and keep up with some of the newer ones. And if you found this interesting, let me know, drop a like. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. It means a lot. If I can get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, which is my goal, that would be fantastic. So that would much appreciated. And comment and let me know what you think, if you bought the bundle or if you decided to take these decks to the next level and upgrade them. Let me know. Thanks for watching, guys.